JP, because there's a lot of new faces in the room. I'm JP Helk. I'm the Director of Technology for the office. I'll let Kristin introduce herself. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, kind of a general overview of your business, your team, and then we can kind of deep dive a little bit more.
Sure. Thank you. It's nice to meet you, and it's such a pleasure being in this office. In 2010, I guess 13 years ago, I helped move our office to this office as I was an investor in this office at the time. And I launched my career with this office in 2006-07 when I was on Venture Philly, which is pretty awesome and interesting. I was on a team for a year and a half or so. And then I rolled off when I was ready as an individual to learn all my own systems, which I did for about 3-4 years. I tell people that I lived, slept, ate, breathed real estate during those 4 years. And had my best year in 2010 as an individual agent when I was just about to have my first child. I closed about 10 million in volume on my own with a part-time assistant during the spring market. So super excited about that achievement. It was a really big deal, made a lot of money that year, helped a lot of families, helped a lot of people, and it was great. Then I had my worst year the following year when I was with a newborn and nothing was really working right. So I had to rethink things. In 2012, my team started organically, grew a commitment to share my experience, education, and gross commission income with other people. And so my team started as a boutique team, which it continues to be. I've had a team for over the last 10 years. Every year team is something a little bit different. You grow, you contract, you grow, you contract. And yeah, here I am. It's a pleasure. Usually my team does about 20 to 40 million. Often in business, oftentimes our deal sizes are on the trending on luxury scale, where I consider that to be maybe between $1 million or 2 million. For example, for our pending deals in 2024, 2 of them are approaching 2 million. So we have one condo under contract at the Lanesboro for just over 1.8. And then we have another new construction townhome under contract at Artist Village, which is at 17th and Fitzwater. We also have a small condo at the Savoy for $395, which is fantastic, and I'm really excited for the buyer. All of these client engagements are really, really special. Everyone on my team is very meaningful too. Brandon's on my team here. We have some emerging talent and real estate experts in the room, like my friend Mary, who's here, who helps me with all of my events and so on now at event prep. So thank you, Mary, for coming. But I'm happy to answer and offer any suggestions, advice, answer questions that you guys may have. There's a lot to think about in our business, and I've thought about a lot of it, most of it, over time.
Well, let's take it back a little bit. Tell me about your past lives. What did you do before real estate?
Before real estate, I was in corporate sales. So I sold a niche accounting system to big law firms in town and other entities. So I appreciated that background because sometimes I feel people can be a little too casual in our real estate world. Having some corporate experience allows you to be more formal about a client engagement, listing contracts, buyer agency contracts, the respect of our documentation, being more formal with your presentations, and also just being a little bit more formal about how you act and present yourself. So if you have the opportunity to be part of a corporate setting, I encourage you to feel it out, watch and learn from other people, and make sure you're aware of any business etiquette that you can embrace. You can take easy classes on business etiquette online, and so on. And over the years, we may have loosened this up a little bit, but my team has typically had a no jean policy, and especially no ripped jeans. Also, we typically have what I would call the black jacket rule, or a jacket rule. Now, again, a lot has changed since COVID. But I've heard clients of mine talk about other realtors and how casual they were, to the point of being offensive for certain profiles of clients. Like, one client of mine was a corporate executive, basically, who owns her own logistics company, who is probably in her late 50s. And she was offended that an agent she worked with showed up to a meeting in ripped jeans. And then I proceeded to help her daughter. I earned the business from that situation. We helped her daughter buy a place for 500, and then I think we sold it for 600 a few years later. But it was all because of the geographic area where they were from. They were from Northern New York. Things are a little bit more formal there. This was pre-COVID, so everything was a little bit more formal at that time. But there's no reason to detract from your potential success by being too casual. And so, anyway, if you have questions about that, I can help you. I oftentimes have helped my team members keep that in mind. I've taken my team members shopping. I've said, okay, X, let's go to Banana Republic when there was a Banana Republic here. I'll buy a couple of things for you. You buy yourself a couple of things for you. It's not always easy to know how to dress. So that's why people have businesses like Mary, who's a personal stylist. She does all my hair and makeup for all of my events. She's helped many of my clients who, and friends. One of them just sold a $4 million house in Princeton. This friend of mine needs help. She needs confidence. She wants to change her wardrobe to live her new city lifestyle. Another friend of mine is a very accomplished attorney. She just doesn't have the time to dress herself. So I turned her over to Mary. But I'm kind of on a tangent right now, and I'll hand it back over to you.
Like, I recently went to an open house with a client where the person hosting the open house was in shorts and flip-flops, and it was not shorts and flip-flops weather. But even if it was, that felt a little rough. So like, there's definitely, I understand gradients, but yeah, there's a certain level where you're too casual.
Yes.
So coming from that corporate world, what was it about real estate that attracted you to the industry?
This is a great question. So I was at a very busy point in my life about 15 years ago. And at the time I was getting married, going through all of that wedding planning and so on, working in my corporate world. I just moved from Chicago. We moved here because of some medical reasons that my husband at the time had to deal with in his own family that were very intense. And I was excited about launching my life in a new city because I know I have the skill set to be successful in anything. And that's how I've always looked at my life. I don't have a lot of immediate family here. I don't have a massive high school group of friends here. I didn't go to college here. So I really had to learn how to create a new network. And I tell people I threw myself at the city. I didn't love it when I moved here. And when I threw myself at the city, I was not in real estate at the time. I just needed friends. So I would go to every event and try to form 1 to 3 friendships. And I kept it very basic, not intimidating. And little by little, I started branching out into the professional women's leadership arenas and the professional women's networking arenas, which was good for me at the time. And then during that time, I was buying my first house. I was a first-time home buyer. So no idea what I was doing, no idea where we were buying. We were looking at, it was in 2005. So it was at the peak of the previous market. We're looking at all these nasty condos that needed work. And we're working with one agent who's a friend now, and he's even more, he has a longer tenure and legacy than I do in the business. His name is Mark Wade. He's great. He had a really strong specialty in condos at the time, which is why we were seeing all these condos. And then we switched agents just because of timing. It wasn't for any negative reason. It was weird timing, vacation, summer, etc. We started working with another agent who was from the suburbs. We ended up purchasing a small home in Graduate Hospital, which I still own as a rental. And it's been a very strong rental for me since 2013. I typically rent it out at $2,500 a month. My tenants there stay there typically for 1 to 5 or 2 to 5 years. It's only had a couple of tenants actually during that time. I've never had any tenant issues at that property ever, which is awesome. And I realized that once I knew a community, once I became embedded in the community, I could do what Butch did. That was his name. What Butch did in the city, I could do so much more, and I could help the consumer so much more by knowing the community, knowing the neighbors, being that advocate, and really just diving in. So I went to night school, worked 2 jobs getting into the business, like some of you may be doing. I kept my sales job where I had a lot of autonomy and freedom, and then I would work as much as possible in the evenings and on the weekends. And that was really helpful to me at the time because what was really helpful to me at the time was that I didn't have a lot of people pulling at my schedule. I didn't have kids at the time. I waited in life to have kids. So if anybody has any questions about that, just let me know. But I waited because I wanted to be more solidified in my career and have a stronger financial foundation before I had kids. And I don't think you're ever ready to have kids, but I still could have waited to have kids, but I'm glad I had kids when I did. And then, let's see, again, I don't have major family in the area. So if you don't have a lot of family tugging at you here, that's great in a way because it allows you the opportunity to be working on the weekends, like nonstop, and start creating a family network with your clientele group, and all of your mets, all the people you need. And that's kind of exactly what I did. I mean, I wasn't as much of a sports enthusiast back then. We don't have really good teams in Chicago. We haven't for a long time, I feel. Now I'm a much bigger sports enthusiast, as you can imagine, after being in Philadelphia for 15 years. But like my friends, the people I knew at the time, they would just sit at home and watch game after game after game on the weekends. And I was out hosting open house after open house after open house after open house on Saturday and Sunday. And I was running all over the place from University City to Fishtown. At the time, I don't even know if Fishtown existed really, but Northern Liberties at the time. And then, over a few years, learning the suburbs as different team members of mine, we would go out to preview these suburban properties at 8 in the morning in like Gladwin or, Penn Valley or wherever it may be, and Chestnut Hill, for example. So I tell people I got into real estate as a hobby, and then it became my full-time career. And I like that. People are often surprised to hear that. I had no idea what it was going to turn into or allow me to do.
You talked about, joining clubs and going to networking events, and actually it ties really nicely into the next thing I want to talk about. When they told me that I was going to be the one interviewing you today, Frank and Andrew sent me over a little bit about you, and you may be on more boards and associations than anyone I've ever met in my life. So talk to me about why is that leadership and involvement so important to you?
Well, I think for some people it comes rather naturally because you're curious, right? And you have a brain and you want to connect and you want to use it, you want to learn about different areas. I would say that, growing up in my 20s, I didn't come from a family who was all into all these clubs. I came from a family who valued family time and really valued spending time with myself. I was the oldest, and I have 2 siblings. My sister, who's a physician, and then my brother, who was 5 years younger, went to the Naval Academy and was in the Marines. And eventually got his MBA in finance, but now I think he kind of likes being a stay-at-home dad to his 2-year-old daughter, and he's going to have another child in the new year. He also does like computer coding and stuff that allows him to work from home. But again, being in a new city with no major connections, it challenges you. I think it's one of the biggest and best challenges you can have in your life is recreating yourself in a new city. And if you're not moving to a new city, then pretend that you are and look at Philadelphia differently. What are you not doing? What would you like to do that takes you out of your comfort zone? What have you heard me talk about? What have you heard other mentors talk about? What kinds of groups or clubs have you meant to go to, but you haven't yet? And you've been thinking about them for like 2 to 3 years. So over the years, I've been part of a lot of different clubs, and I highly recommend that anybody, if you're in your 20s or 30s and you're not a member of a club, you need to join one like tomorrow. Anyone. The reason I say that is because most clubs have special membership offerings for people under 40. And they're significantly less expensive than for the people who are over 40. And the quality of relationship that you make, whether it's the Pyramid Club or the Fiddler Club or the Racket Club or a poker club, I don't know if that's the best idea, recommendation, or the Union League, or the Germantown Cricket Club, whatever it is, you have to build community. I think sometimes as real estate brokers, agents, we sometimes can find ourselves in operating in silos, working in silos. And if you ever feel that way, you need to recognize it, call yourself on it, and then push yourself out to find more community, because we're only going to help more people, close more deals, make more GCI if you have more people in your database. I kind of hate that phrase because I'm not the best one with databases, but you really do need to have 3 to 5 deals working at any time to close one. So you need to be speaking about real estate with 3 to 5 people to close one deal, at least in this type of market. So all of these clubs matter. And I've decided to focus on the Union League over time. I can talk with you about a bunch of different clubs, but the Union League has been a great club for me. I was part of the junior membership group. I'm part of the health and wellness group at the Union League, which is a newer club that just started, led by 2 women that I really identify with. I haven't been able to spend enough time with those women yet, but I hope to in the future. I'm also, I challenged myself to join a club that was full of angel investors in the life sciences and biotech arena. That kind of intimidated me a little bit, but the reality is all of the members of that club own real estate, and they're all going to be buying and selling real estate at some point, or renting real estate. And so I really needed to put myself in groups where I could connect with people on many different levels, share interests with them. And I have had great conversations with a number of people in the group. In fact, I had a luxury condo conversation with somebody the other day. He may come back to me. There were some differences in opinion between husband and wife on what to do. They live in Society Hill. There are all kinds of people considering moving to the city, but they're a little bit tentative because of all of the complicating factors around urban living right now. And so anyway, I can go on and on about that, but that's one thing. And then there's also like a real estate club at the Union League. There are all these different clubs or within clubs, and you just want to find 1 or 2 and then really challenge yourself to give it your all, your 100%. Start leading, because only through leadership are you noticed. That's good. And you don't have to be a perfect leader. You just have to take this step forward to make yourself uncomfortable and start working to master some concepts so that you can start teaching a bit, or you can start leading a new agent, or you can start recruiting someone. Like I met Brandon at an open house, and I think he was trying to sell me more than I was trying to sell him, because he also has gotten into the business from another business selling lighting for GE and one of their agencies. So, but then anyway, here he is, super productive member of our team, and we're enjoying closing deals together. We also seem to attract a similar type of client, I feel, which is nice. But leadership opens doors, you know, and it's incredibly important to have yourself noticed through leadership.
So let's talk about your work in the community. So tell me first about your SWCC 5K run. What is that and how did that get started?
So the 5K run was a community building event that we started 15 years ago. And I was the race director for it. I fondly tell people that I would much rather be a real estate broker than a race director for any type of event or run. Because I was the race director for about 5 years of that event and had to be the motivation behind everything. You know, including when, you know, a hurricane blew through the area the night before the 5K run in the neighborhood. You know, who was there in the morning setting up tables and trying to make people feel comfortable with the green sky that we were seeing. And that was me when it was like, I don't know, -10 out, you know, and we were having to run the next day at the end of October. Who was out there trying to motivate people and motivate volunteers and get things going? That was me. It wasn't easy to start the run through an urban neighborhood in Philadelphia, because everybody, I think, knows that Philadelphia typically doesn't embrace change very easily or well. Now you see 5K runs everywhere. But at the time, it helped me because I had just gotten done running the New York City Marathon. And I've always been involved in sports and athletics and wellness my whole life. So I had just gotten done running the marathon in New York, and what played well for us as we were setting up this run was that comment of, if New York could figure out how to host a 26-mile run throughout the whole city, I think we can do that in the Graduate Hospital neighborhood for like a 1 hour 5K run. And it was very easy to work with the city civic associations or the city departments that we needed to work with to get what's called a parade permit. And then just year over year, I engaged all of my clients at the time in this event. In fact, I saw one of my clients on the street the other day. She has 2 daughters. She just sold a small condo that I helped her buy. Fortunately, I didn't list it, but whatever, that happens, I guess, as you're going through life. And she said, Kristin, can you believe it? I just volunteered for the 5K run, and it's 15th year anniversary. And we all started it. And I was like, that's amazing, Caroline. Thank you so much. In fact, she was with the PA tourism board or industry at the time. And I think the tourism, the Philly tourism group helped create the logo or helped bless it, because there was a certain type of logo that they were using. It was like, with love, Philly, XOXO. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but yeah, it was really, really cool.
How important is your work in the community towards your business?
So I'll just continue and say that as I finished maybe my 5th year of real estate directing and had 2 young kids and had business, it became a little difficult for me to continue my excitement about race directing. And I really needed to find a transition plan to transition it to the right group. So we transitioned it to the parent group around one of the public schools in the area. We had the right meetings. And so now the run is run and managed by the parent group for 2 public schools in Grad Hospital, the one at 20th and Catherine, and the one at 17th and Christian. So it's Chester Arthur and Stanton. And it's a great fundraiser for both schools. How important is it? I think, again, it goes back to leadership, right? It shows leadership when you commit to the community, you commit to spending time with the community, whatever group it may be, but it shows your clients that you can be a leader in your community, and your clients want to work with a leader.
So the first thing that anyone ever said to me about you is that you are a connector, a real estate connector, connecting your clients to, their homes, their dreams, et cetera. What does that mean to you? Is that something that you have intentionally curated? Or is that something that just came about organically? What does that mean for you?
I think both. It's organic because it's my natural personality. As soon as I meet someone, I'm thinking, okay, what do they do? Who do they know? Who do I know? What are their interests? How can I add value to their life? How can I add value to their network? How can I add value? And so by connecting them with, like, we can help people find jobs. Our clients hopefully they're not changing a job when they're buying a property. But if they've just accepted a new job and they're moving here for fellowship, this is a real situation that happened yesterday. Oh, and another situation loosely that's happening too, is we do a lot of business with the medical community. So if somebody's moving here for a fellowship at SHOP, well, two of our clients work in the cardiology department and they're in leadership. Are you a cardiology fellow? We'll connect you with Vivek and Stacy. And you just kind of use that to show your clients how professional you are and how you can add value in so many different ways of their lives.
So with all of your experience in the real estate industry, if you were to redo anything starting as a brand new agent, do something differently than how you did it, what would that look like?
So I wasn't super serious about real estate when I got my license. I was doing some entrepreneurial things. I was getting distracted. I was working another job too. So I was like mildly successful my first year in 2007. But I wasn't serious. And so I regret, I suppose, not being serious fast enough. So if you guys aren't really committed, I'm a great example of what commitment over a 15-year term can look like. And I became serious very quickly in 2008, not because of the recession. I didn't really even know it was happening because I was too new to the business at the time, which many of you, if you're new, it's a great time to get into real estate because you're super humble and the outside factors don't really affect you. And you're just happy for whatever deal you get tomorrow or yesterday or a week in the future. But I would if you're not serious about the business, get serious about it yesterday. Get your license if you don't have it already. Just do it. You can do it in 2 weeks. I think I did it over a period of 3 months because I went to school in person. I went to school at night. I didn't feel an urgency about it. But I guess if I were you, I would feel a bit of urgency about it. Just get it done. And then, these are things that I did that I encourage you to do. So get serious about it faster. And I only lost a year and a half. But you guys and whoever is in your 20s, this was my second career. I didn't get my license until I was about 30. So everybody in your 20s, if you already are licensed, you're way ahead of me. And the challenge for you, as I was thinking about it today, is how do you stay motivated through your 20s, through your 30s, through your 40s, because this business can take a lot out of you. I think, so what I did after I got licensed and worked for a little bit on my team is I recognized that I didn't have as much experience or information that I wanted to, or that made me feel confident as a professional, or maybe that would allow me to compete with like Joanne David Howe and compete with like Alan Don, because I wanted to compete with them at the highest levels, or with myself at the highest levels. And so I stayed in school and went to night school to obtain my broker's license in Pennsylvania. And then I did and achieved that goal right before I had my first child, Leo, about 12 years ago. And you don't necessarily have to get your broker's license. It's a lot of work. It's good work, but recognize where you need more help. we offer so many great classes at KW. You should be taking all of them for all free. And if you're missing any of them, I don't know, ask yourselves why. Two, if you need more info, you're noticing some discrepancies or some like voids. There's so much education out there online or at Temple's Real Estate Institute or Poly. Go sign up for a real estate finance class. Go sign up for a construction management class. Go sign up for whatever. You know, again, if you guys don't have families yet, time is on your side. And so if you're, what are you doing at night? What are you doing on the weekends? Like, make your time work for you and just crave that education. That's what I did, and I loved it, and I continue to do it. I just got my broker's license in Florida. It was a big achievement for me over this year. It's probably one of the things that I'm most proud of for myself, next to closing with my clients at the Laurel and also helping them sell in the suburbs, because we closed about 5 million in 60 days. And then we also set the bar for the highest price point in the city at about 1,600, 1,700 a square foot, which I think are great facts and accomplishments. But while I was doing that, I studied and studied and studied and made sure I knew all of my information to pass my Florida broker's exam. And now this is the first kind of intentional thing, because sometimes I do have a tendency to wing my life, wing it, I guess. I heard somebody who walked into an open house of mine said that the other day. They're retired, and I said, they've been renting for 7 years, and I'm like, oh, you know, it like that seems, in my mind, I'm thinking that's such a long time to rent and just throw money away, right? Like, they're probably spending $2,000 a month at least on a rental for 7 years. It's like $210,000. I was doing the math. I'm like, wow. And she's like, yeah, it's okay. She's like, now we're looking for a place, but we love our rental. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, well, we're just winging it. And I said, yeah, actually, I can appreciate that. I'm a free spirit deep down, even though when I talk about real estate, that side of me doesn't come out. But my Florida license was super intentional, because it creates a 10-year plan for mom, and it creates a 10-year plan for my future with my family when my kids are in college, or maybe even getting out of college, so that we do have family places together that are fun, that are friendly, that are warm, that are around water, which inspires me. And so never stop learning. Crave that education, crave that information. I mean, and also that extends to, like, many of you probably don't have a corporate sales background. You don't know how many opportunities you need to create in order to close one piece of business, right? So do you need some sales skills? Do you need some sales skills? Do you need to go to a sales training camp? Do you need to go to a sales boot camp? Do you need to sign up for whatever, Buffini, or just immerse yourself in being a salesperson for a year? Because it's a very different mindset. And I've been in those corporate environments where your numbers are reviewed on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And when your numbers you're not hitting your numbers, it's not really a fun conversation to have in the corporate world. Here in our real estate world, it's a little different. You can be a little easy on yourself if you don't have somebody keeping yourself accountable. And so, I'll turn it back to you.
So I always like to save the most challenging question for last. I'm a firm believer that we learn best through failure. What was your biggest failure in your real estate career, and what did you learn from it?
So I was thinking about that today. I was thinking about, like, what are things that I'm not good at? I'm not good at a lot of things. I'm not good at keeping people accountable. I don't like it. I'm not good at keeping my kids accountable. I don't like making them do their homework. It gives me a headache, honestly. Like, I have a physical response to it. I don't like saying, like, how many open houses did you host? How many people did you meet? How many Mets on Mets? That's not who I am. I am great at bringing excitement, bringing energy, knowing the documentation, immediate execution, immediate efficiencies, creating lifestyle exposure and allowing people to make lifestyle decisions, building loyalty, but I'm not great at accountability. Sometimes I feel that hurts me a little bit. Probably one of my biggest mistakes in my career, and we all have so many, probably by the time you've been in the business for many years, but was I think probably biting off more than I could chew at a time where my personal and business worlds were colliding in a sensitive way. It was right after I had my first child. I had the opportunity to work with maybe my first $1 million client. It was a competitive situation because they told me they were working with someone else in Chestnut Hill, but they were open to working with me in the city. She was pregnant with twins. I had just had a baby. It was messy and it was not good. And there were just too many emotions, and like one woman who just had a baby should not be working with another woman who just had, like, I don't know, twins. So I think that, and did I have a team at the time? I don't think I did. And so I relied on a good friend of mine. I have many good friends in her company. And Mickey Pascarella helped me close that deal. And I was able to kind of walk away from it, but that still haunts me. I still see this family. We're okay, we're friends. I've kind of like lost a little bit of that like vibe 12 years later, but that was a rough experience. So I guess knowing when you don't know, knowing when you don't feel comfortable asking for help, those are the lessons from that experience. It also was the first time that I had been involved with like very high level questions about condo associations. Now, I received my PhD in condo associations by working with a partner at a law firm in town who was referred to me. And over a period of about 4 years, he gave me and my team a PhD in the condos in the city. But if you don't know what you're doing with a condo, ask for my help. Just come to me and say, hey, Kristin, teach me. I don't know what I'm doing. Your client's going to notice it. There's a lot going on within these condo communities, and I'm happy to help. So that's what I needed to do probably earlier than I should have done so. Way back.
Well, we have about 5 minutes for questions. If anyone has questions, if you're on Zoom, you can, obviously when no one else is speaking, feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question as well. But what questions do we have for Kristin?
Not so much a question, but just a little kind of about you. That I remember when you got into real estate. Now knowing your background, you didn't know anybody. I didn't know that. I was a licensed assistant on a team at the time, and we were trying to do a deal with you, or you had submitted something on our listing. You were so kind on the phone, and every time you came to the office to drop something off, you could have just dropped it at the first level. You always insisted on coming up to see me. You always insisted on connecting face to face. You were always so kind at getting to know everyone. So
thank you.
Always been very nice. So that goes a long way, especially now knowing that you didn't know as many people. You were so outgoing and just ready to connect you.
Thank you.
So that goes a long way. I find it goes a long way. In this business.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's thank you for mentioning that. I really appreciate it. It's good to know that, years ago, I was making an impact, back then. I have always had this approach of timing is of the essence. It says that throughout our agreement of sale. Time kills deals. There's another saying, if you haven't heard that. Like literally minutes can matter in our business. They still do. And so if I can hand a check, which at the time we were dealing with checks, but if I'm not going to wait it to be routed through the mail cycle of this office and have the potential for it to be lost and to inconvenience myself, my client, the other agent, the seller. Like 6 people are disrupted by something that I just didn't care about enough to, you know, hand deliver to make sure and take a picture of, you know, what was happening. One of my most successful talent engagements, when this particular agent decided to make the move to KW, basically because of the high quality in which we interacted during a deal. His name is Jonathan Fink. You guys may know him. He's great. He's now in another company, but for many years he was here, and maybe there's opportunity for him to come back now. But I was drafting addenda for him. I wasn't waiting for him to get me not a silly, but an easy addendum that just required $2,000 worth of credit from the seller. I would offer these things to other agents because, again, at the time, I had time. And through that continuous commitment to efficiency and time and mastering my documentation, I mean, I can get anything done from my phone. I master all of my business systems and processes. I can get anything done at any time, no matter where I am. Nobody knows if I'm on vacation. Nobody cares, frankly, unless I have to be somewhere in person, which that's, you know, not the case. But I appreciate those comments. And I encourage all of you guys as you work with other agents, anytime you can make another agent's job easier, they'll remember that. And that speaks to the reputation year over year over year. So showing up early, meeting people at listings. I don't know how many people do that, but I always try to meet people at my listings, always. And in this type of market, why? Because I wanted, number one, to make sure the other agent didn't have problems with the door or the lockbox. I also wanted all the lights to be on. I also wanted the buyer to see me first with a big smile on my face. Welcome to this house. Welcome to your next home. You know, I wanted to be waving them in from down the block, like, hi, how are you? Great seeing you. You know, maybe I've relaxed a little bit on that approach, but if you only have maybe 1, 2, 3 listings, you should be at every showing. And it's a great opportunity to recruit, to identify talent, and to make a great impression on your fellow cooperating broker, who ultimately is your client too.
Sure.
Are you teaching like Concord class?
I would love to, actually. I'll get that on the schedule for January or February. That's good. Yeah, that's a good question. Go ahead.
When you want to start your team, is it like a decision to start a team like now, or like it's happening from being out there to the system, and then the system that you know what you bring to the new, is it organic like that? Or?
Well, so I strongly feel that you need to be a really successful individual agent before you start a team. You can't just get into real estate and start a team without having significant volume beyond. Significant meaning 10 million a year. That's my kind of benchmark, I feel, for a team. If you're not doing 10 million a year and you want to start a team, I think you need to work harder on yourself. Now, there may be other differences in opinion on that. But you don't really need a team until you can't service your clients well anymore, right? And you're running around so much that you're so busy that you need to hire an assistant, usually first, and then you start hiring buyer's agents. That's typically the flow of, and then you start working with more listings. Now, that's typically the flow. Of course, you know, with me being such a free spirit, and I don't always think in very concrete terms about these teams. My team was a little bit different when I started because I had a newborn and I couldn't get around very easily. So I actually became the chief administrative officer of my team, and I wanted to push all my team members ahead of me. And I didn't really care about being out in front of the public as much or whatnot. I wanted them to run with everything, and we had so much fun. It was great. We celebrated everything. and still continue to try to do that. But I guess the way that it happened was I learned how to trust someone and have someone shadow me when I was pregnant. And we worked out a commission split plan. We had a plan for that person. So we started like a mini team arrangement that was documented. And then I made a commitment because people aren't happy unless they're making money, right? So I made a commitment to share as much of my business as possible and really give the team a great go and be all in, because I think money can be a challenge with a team, and it can create a lot of issues. So I've been generous beyond need. I've given when I haven't needed to give, and I've shared when I haven't needed to share. It's burned me in some respects. In fact, there's someone who got out of the business who made a lot of money with me when she shouldn't have, because we closed at the time like one of the biggest, we were the dual agents in a $1.7 million suburban property sale. And I think it was the first time I'd ever had so much GCI. I was like, let's help everybody benefit from that and create like a really good success story for a team. And then she went back to like doing something at one of the academic institutions. And I was like, this didn't work out the way that I wanted to, but a lot of other people benefited along the way. So I got one of my clients into real estate. When he was in real estate school, he introduced me to one of my other team members who was on my team for 10 years. She now is married, has 3 kids. She kind of got out of the business, but I'm trying to reinvent her. Life has changed a little bit for her, and I'm trying to help her get back into the business. I'm not sure it'll work, but I am recruiting her, and she knows I am recruiting her. And then that led to us recruiting somebody in the office. And then that led to us recruiting some people from RE/MAX, several people from RE/MAX. Then that led to a bunch of other things. And yeah, here we are today. I wanted to mention, before we jump into other questions, like hopefully you all have your own personal financial statements. If you don't, let me know. These are really important. Maybe I should teach a class on personal financial statements as well, in addition to Kaido docs. By a certain point in life, you should kind of know what your assets are, know what your liabilities are. And I've been, I have mine pulled up right here. And just, I wanted to make sure you guys understand how much of like an investor I've tried to be over the last several recent years. Like I have 5 investments that are debt opportunities where I'm part of the debt that was given to certain developers in the area. And some of the debt that I've invested in include like the Fittler development that Zados has developed along the river. Some of my debt investment has been to fund the Torresdale development in the Northeast with Zados development. I've invested in debt for a Texas developer in Texas. I've invested in the debt that an expanding dentistry office in Berwyn and Paoli have, and I've invested in 2 rounds of that. So in addition to 8 units of real estate investments that I hold, 2 triplexes and 1 luxury condo that I don't know if I love, but I have it and it's cash flow positive right now. In addition to that 1 house that I bought way back when I worked with those 2 agents before I got into real estate. By the way, it hasn't appreciated that much, in my opinion. I bought a different type of product in Grad Hospital, one that was 2,000 square feet instead of 1,100 square feet, one with a garage instead of no parking on a garden block. You know, it would have appreciated much more, but I love that house and I'm never going to sell it. I also have, one of the owners of KW Empower, and I contributed a significant amount of cash to become an investor in 2016. My partners are maybe everybody that you've heard of or know of, everyone from David Snyder to Gaurav to Noah to everyone else. Kevin. I'm an owner of the title company. I'm a small owner of our mainline office and also a small owner of our title company out there too. I'm an owner in, I have small ownership pieces of 2 assisted living facilities out in Pittsburgh. I know nothing about them. I just have contributed there. I invested probably too much in a hip innovation technology. They have not made as much progress as I would like to see. And you could consider that potentially an investment that maybe I did not need to make. But I challenged myself about 3 years ago to start investing in everything that I possibly could. And I met an investment manager who works with alternative investments. And I, starting in 2021, when we were all flush with cash, I started just investing like crazy. And I've always lived a pretty humble life to be able to do that. So I didn't mention that earlier, but in our business, you have to live a humble lifestyle. You just can't not do it until you're at certain levels in the business. But even, we've all seen that like billionaires try to live a pretty humble, some billionaires try to live a pretty humble life. So it's a good rule of thumb, and it will protect you in a down market. And then some of my equity positions in these alternative investments include 5 other opportunities. 1 is an urgent care center that I'm an owner of. 2 is a substance abuse treatment center that I'm an owner of. I think both are in the Northeast, and look to expand. I have equity in 2 doggy daycares, like luxury doggy daycares around Alexandria, Virginia, and Leesburg, Virginia. And then I also have a small amount of ownership in the Zados development at 15th and Pine, which I'm a bit concerned about because I think the construction site looks a little messy right now and I don't see a lot of progress on it. I think lately I've seen a little bit more progress, but whatever, it's listed by our office and I'm sure there will be beautiful condos there soon. But I wanted to give you that understanding because I'm really proud of this challenge that I gave myself a few years ago. And I want to make sure you see it from a woman's perspective, from a mom's perspective, that I'm laser focused on this personal financial statement. And it's something that I should look at, you should look at every year. And that's just the first page of my financial statement. The second page is like my IRAs, my investment accounts. Do you guys have retirement accounts set up? If you don't, let's talk. Do you have life insurance? If you don't, try to buy some whole life insurance if you are in your 20s or 30s, because when you're healthy is the best time to buy life insurance. And I think my parents were kind of in this business growing up. My parents, again, they paid a lot of attention to us growing up. They were small business people. They weren't like big business. They did go to Harvard. They were college educated. And my mom went to University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana around Chicago, which is where I went. But they weren't big business people, but they did know insurance. So when I was like 21 or 23, my dad is like, you need whole life insurance. And I'm like, why do I need this? And he's like, just buy it. And so I've had this whole life insurance policy forever. And it costs me like $800 or $900 a year, I think. But when and if something happens to me, I think my kids are completely taken care of. I think. I don't know if I really understand it to the degree that I need to, but I think and hope they will be fine and can do whatever they want to do. So on that note, I wanted to mention to you some other marketing things that I do. Every couple of years, I try to advertise in Philadelphia style. That's why I brought this magazine, to kind of remind myself to mention that. It's an easy way for me to get out to the public without having to be there physically. So is it worth the $3,500 that I put out every like 1 to 3 years? It's a lot of money, but is it worth it to me? I think so. I hope so. It means that I can be in print, in public, be seen as a professional, a luxury professional, without me having to be at every event everywhere in the city. And then, true to my commitment to gratitude and commitment to growth, education, and thank you all for being here. I always like to give a couple of little presents out at my classes. So I have a gift card for La Colombe, I have a gift card for Rescue Spa, which is just down the street. So I'm gonna give it to some people who made some comments, so thank you for your questions and your questions. Thank you for being in real estate as long as I am. I really appreciate it. And it's always nice to end on a little note of surprise. Do you guys have any other questions? I mean, I'm kind of an open book, and I like helping as much as possible. Go ahead.
All the investments that you've been able to be a part of. Were they all from your business manager, or they come from relationships that you built, it's not being involved with business?
No, they've come about fairly randomly, but then also intentionally. I mean, so the investment firm that I met, it was interesting. I was introduced to them because someone thought that they maybe could help me in any development projects that I might do. And I haven't really gotten there in my career where I am a developer yet. I don't know, that may be another evolution of my career. But instead of them giving me money, I just started giving them money as an investor because I wanted more passive income streams. And that's how I think the 10 to 12 different income streams that I just mentioned, half debt, half equity, were created. And the debt income streams, they give me money every month or every quarter. We're not talking about tons of money. It doesn't replace my brokerage income. And the equity investments are a pure risk. I could lose all of those investments. But when and if those businesses sell, I could triple or quintuple or 10x, what I put into those investments and get that back. That's hopefully what will happen. Like with that HIP technology that might be sold at some point, and then, with my X number investment, I'll 3x it or 5x it if that ever happens. And then the real estate investments, like the triplexes in Manayunk. One was, those two items I own with partners, which is super fun. One we bought before COVID, and I partnered with a girlfriend of mine who's a banker and her husband, who has a background in finance. And we all play like really good roles, and they're very hands-off for the most part. Don't get me wrong, this year we had to do some maintenance to these properties, but for that property, I didn't even go to for 2 years. I never even went there because for passive income and an investment, it's a waste of my time to spend any time with it. Right? This year I had to do a little bit more work to it. And then the other one I bought with clients. So start inserting yourself in client conversations with some investors and say, I'd like to be a partner with you. Would you be open to it? And that's required a little bit more hand-holding. We did a lot of electrical work to it. We got a new tenant in the first floor. We increased the income from the first floor unit by 25%. I went past it this morning. It's on Gay Street in Manayunk. I love that property. I think it's great. It has an awesome backyard. And I love the fact that I have partners on it. It's really meaningful. But it takes a lot of capital to do this stuff. And so if you live a lavish lifestyle or you spend a ton of money, you don't have any savings to invest. So that's why I say live a humble lifestyle. The second property I bought as an investment that I don't own anymore, but it was $100,000 less than the first property I bought. So what would life look like if you buy a property and then you try to buy your second property for $100,000 less, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, thank you so much, Kristin. This was amazing. Are you going to be hanging out at all?
Yeah, I'm going to hang out for Kevin's class. I haven't seen Kevin in a long time, and I'm here probably until 1:30, 1:45. So yeah, if you guys have any questions or this is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So happy.